Brilliant. Well, thanks, Kate, for the introduction, and good morning, everyone. Firstly, thank you so much for joining this webinar today on mental health in sport and physical activity as part of Leicestershire and Rutland's annual conference. So yeah, as Kate mentioned, my name is Sam Perks, and I am Sector Support Lead for Physical Activity at Mind, which, don't worry, not many people actually know what my role title means. If I'm being honest, I'm a little bit confused by it. But in a nutshell, my role is to support sport and physical activity organisations around mental health. And I'm also joined by Carla Burton today. So Carla, if you'd like to introduce yourself.
Yeah, morning all, morning everyone. My name is Carla Burton and I am the Physical Activity Officer and Regional Support. Again, a complicated title, but yeah, welcome everyone.
Thanks, Carla. Yeah, at Mind we love a good, long, confusing role title, and there's definitely some more within the organisation that are even longer and more confusing. And what we'd like to do is just say, if you feel comfortable to, please do introduce yourselves through the chat box. It's just great to see who we have on the webinar today, and also just helps with maybe a bit of networking or interaction during the webinar. But obviously, only do that if you feel comfortable to do so. So it's a hugely challenging time at the moment, particularly this week. And so we really do hope you are taking care of yourselves. It has never been more important to look after your mental health and well-being and focus on the things that you enjoy. So just before we started, I just wanted to make you aware of a couple of things, links that you can access if you do need more support. So please do have a look at our website on how you can support your own and others' mental health. And also, we've created a coronavirus and mental health toolkit that provides information around a range of topics, including mental health, coronavirus, so around young people, around if you're going into work, if you've experienced bereavement, and lots more. So please do take a look at that. So this webinar, we're hoping that by the end of today's session that you have an overview of mental health within sport and physical activity, and also how we at Mind are supporting the work around this and how we can possibly support you as well. So just a bit of an overview. So we're going to take a look at the journey so far within mental health in sport and physical activity. We'll then move on to our physical activity work at Mind. Also the support that we can provide organisations around mental health and sport and physical activity. We'll look at a couple of examples of good practice, and then we'll end with a Q&A session. So if you need to ask any questions. If you do want to ask questions during the webinar, please do. We'll try and pick them up, but if not, we'll hopefully do that at the end of the session. So let's jump straight in and look at the significant developments around mental health in physical activity over the last few years. So this slide will give you an overview of just some of the elements that have taken place in the last 5 to 6 years. So this includes going all the way back to 2015, when the Mental Health Charter for Sport and Recreation was created, as well as the Get Set to Go programme was also launched. Also in 2015, it was the first time that mental well-being had been included as a key outcome in DCMS and Sport England strategies. And this really highlighted the importance and priority that the sports sector was putting on mental health, which since then, obviously, there's been huge strides that have been made. Moving on to 2016, we launched the Mental Health Awareness for Sport and Physical Activity training course. Now, this was a face-to-face version, and it was co-designed with people with lived experience of mental health problems, as well as quite a few people from the sports and physical activity sector. Also during 2016, England Athletics launched their Run and Talk programme. You may have come across this previously, but in a nutshell, the programme upskills volunteers within clubs to become mental health champions, so they can reduce the stigma around mental health and get more people talking about their own mental health and supporting others. And recently we've been engaging with England's Athletics, and they've notified us that they've passed over 1,000 mental health champions so far, which is obviously an amazing achievement. Moving into 2017, the Rugby Players Association launched their #LiftTheWeight campaign. Great mental health raising campaign, and we really would encourage you to take a look at that on the Rugby Players Association's website. Also in 2017, Baroness Gray Thompson publishes her Duty of Care in Sport report. And later on, we'll hear from UK Coaching around how that report has now been adapted into their Duty to Care programme. And then finally, at the end of Get Set to Go phase 1, we released the evaluation report, which includes recommendations around how to develop and deliver mental health and physical activity sessions and projects. A couple of years ago, the Mental Health and Elite Sport Action Plan was published. And this is currently being reviewed and will hopefully be updated in the next few months. But there's been huge progress around how elite sport treats mental health, and it is starting to become on the same level and parity as physical health, which is fantastic to see. England Boxing launched their Box in Mind programme, which aims to upskill the boxing workforce around mental health. And then finally, we announced our On Your Side partnership with the English Football League. So back in 2019, it seems a long time ago now after the long year we've had this year, but we created a dedicated Thriving at Work for Sport resource. And what this resource does is it provides guidance and tips on how sport and physical activity organisations can support their staff's mental health and well-being. We also moved our mental health awareness training online and created an e-learning version. And since it was launched in May last year, over 21,000 people have completed the course, which is amazing. And we're really hoping that this will continue to grow over the next few months and years. And then finally, the FA launched their Heads Up campaign during the summer of 2019, which was spearheaded by the Duke of Cambridge. And that is now into its second season and will continue throughout the next year or so. And then 2020, well, it's been a very difficult year for everyone, but there's still been quite a few achievements around physical activity and mental health. So the Mental Fitness Charter for the Rugby League World Cup 2021 is launched, and this is the first time an international tournament has included a mental health charter as part of their programme. And that charter actually includes providing mental health training to absolutely everyone who is involved in the tournament. So that includes players, coaches, all the way through to venue staff. So that is a huge programme that is taking place for the tournament next year. On the back of a successful first two seasons, Mind and the English Football League extend our On Your Side partnership. And we also celebrated the 5th anniversary of the Mental Health Charter. Unfortunately, we were due to host a conference on the 25th of March to mark the 5th anniversary, but due to coronavirus, we've had to postpone that. So we're hoping we'll be delivering that conference at some point next year, Obviously, it won't be the celebration of the 5th anniversary, it's more likely to be a celebration of the 6th or the 6.5 year anniversary, but we'll eventually get there with that event. So this is just a flavour of some of the achievements that have been made around mental health and physical activity. And it is just that, it's a snapshot. There is so many more examples out there, and some more of them are included in our milestones booklet. The link is at the end, at the bottom of the slide, and we can send that out afterwards if you're interested. So obviously a lot's been going on within mental health and physical activity, but what has Mind been doing around this work? Well, we've actually had a relationship with physical activity for a long time, and it's actually been part of our strategy since 2009. So back in 2009, we delivered a national lottery funded Eco-Minds programme. So this consisted of 130 ecotherapy projects. And what this means is the projects involved activities that took place in nature. And at the end of that programme, 90% of people who exercised in green space reported better mental well-being. In 2014, we published Performance Matters in Elite Sport, and this kick-started a conversation that eventually led to the creation of the Mental Health Charter in 2015. And also in 2014, we were approached by Sport England to form a partnership focusing on physical activity and mental health. And this eventually led to the creation of our Get Set to Go programme, which I'll run through in a bit of detail in the next slide. But why is physical activity so important to us at Mind? Well, we believe that physical activity can build resilience, enable and support mental health recovery, and tackle stigma. And physical activity contributes to our strategic objectives at Mind, as well as helping us to raise funds, build new relationships, and reach new audiences. And a great example of this is our partnership with the English Football League. Previous to this, we've struggled to really reach particularly men within football. Those sort of demographics, they don't want to talk about mental health, and so it's been incredibly hard for us to reach them. But through the partnership and through On Your Side, we have been able to slowly change that culture so that more men are accessing support when they need it. So just a bit of an overview of what we do within the physical activity team at Mind. So we have 3 key programs that we work on, but we also work on other areas, including things such as the Mental Health Charter and Elite Sport. So Get Set to Go programme, well, this is aimed at local minds. So there's roughly about 120 local minds across England and Wales. And Get Set to Go aims to get their members or their service users who are experiencing mental health problems active. So Get Set to Go provides them with the relevant physical activity for them. And to date, 27 local minds have delivered the programme, and they've been funded and supported to deliver activities for their members and service users. And what has also happened through Get Set to Go is that they've started to work closely with local and regional sports and physical activity organisations. Some of you on this webinar may be linked into Get Set to Go in the region. And what's great to see over the past 2 phases of Get Set to Go is the increased collaboration between physical activity and mental health. And we're really hoping that we can build the relationship between the 2 sectors. The next programme we work on is our football partnerships work. So this is aimed at the football community, including fans, clubs, players and staff. And the programme is trying to improve the way that football sport and society approaches mental health by firstly increasing awareness and secondly raising vital funds for mental health projects. So our football partnership work includes two key partnerships, the first of which is the On Your Side partnership with the English Football League, and the second one is the Heads Up partnership with FA, which also includes Calm, Sporting Chance and Heads Together. Now, unfortunately, due to coronavirus, these partnerships have been significantly impacted, so are running on a smaller scale than we originally expected. But we are still seeing some great outcomes from that work. And then the final programme that the physical activity team at Mind focuses on is our sector support work. So this aims to get more sport and physical activity providers equipped with the skills to support and engage people with mental health problems in physical activity. So you'll be pleased to know we've got another graphic to show you here, which I'm not sure you'll be able to see everything on it, but it just gives you an overview and it illustrates what our sector support programme actually does. And we'll run through a couple of the levels in more detail in subsequent slides, but just to give you an overview, at the very bottom we have our universal offer, which is available to the whole sector, anyone within it, and includes things like training, resources and events. We've then got our regional networks, which Carla leads on. So that brings together sports, physical activity and mental health organisations at a local to regional level. Moving up the graphic, we've got our operational partners. So we work in partnership with several national organisations on specific projects around physical activity and mental health. A few examples of these projects include England's athletics #Run and Talk programme, which I mentioned earlier, as well as we're currently working with AOC Sport to establish a mental health ambassador programme for college students. And then right at the top, we have our strategic partners. So we're working with 4 national organisations at a very strategic level. What we're hoping to achieve through these partnerships is we'll upskill these leaders within the sport and physical activity sector around mental health so that they can sort of take a leading role on sharing learning, guidance and good practice to the rest of the sector. And one of our strategic partners is UK Coaching, and there'll be a bit more information on that partnership in a little while. So there's been a huge amount achieved within sport, physical activity and mental health in the last 5 to 6 years and probably even beyond. And it's amazing to see all of this progress. And with that, Mind support has had to grow. And so what we've done is we've created the document on the screen, which highlights all of the mental health support that we can provide. So this includes information and links to relevant training, resources and other support services like our newsletter, webinar series and regional network programme. And alongside this document is this graphic, another graphic for you. Hopefully you can see this okay, but this graphic can be used as a bit of a checklist and highlights the various steps organisations can take around mental health. A lot of the time we're asked, we want to start on our mental health journey, but what do we do? What do we do first? Or we've done a few things around mental health, what are the next steps? So hopefully this graphic just sort of highlights the different things organisations, clubs, and even workforce can do around physical activity and mental health. So I mentioned our universal offer earlier, so the support to the whole sector. So this includes things like our mental health awareness e-learning training. Now this is currently half price, so it's £8.99. It takes around about 2 to 3 hours to complete, and you can save it at any point. And what it aims to achieve is to increase mental health knowledge and confidence of those working within sport and physical activity. We've produced and continue to produce a variety of resources and toolkits, which includes our Mental Health Champions Toolkit, as well as the resource on the learning from our Get Set to Go programme. We also have our webinar series, which was launched back in April. It wasn't planned to coincide with coronavirus and everyone working from home. It just unfortunately turned out to work that way. And over the last 6 to 7 months, we've hosted webinars on topics such as mental health training, mental health and safeguarding, and also workplace wellbeing, mental health at work. And we'll continue to host webinars over the next 6 months and hopefully for the foreseeable future. We also have our monthly newsletter, and this includes updates, good practice and guidance around mental health and physical activity. If you're not signed up to the newsletter and would like to access it, then please do email sport@mind.org.uk. And finally, we also share examples of good practice. So like we will do in a second, we also do that within our webinars, and we're currently in the process of creating a bit of a library of good practice examples. So it can sort of inspire other organisations and other people working within physical activity and mental health of what they could possibly do. Now, I realise I've just spoken at you for around about 20 minutes, so hopefully you're still engaged with this webinar. I'm now going to hand over to Carla, who's going to provide a bit more information on our regional network programme, which is that second tier of our sector support work.
Brilliant. Thanks, Sam, and hi again, everyone. So Sam has just said it's in November 2019, we extended our sector support offer with the launch of Mind's regional network programme, which was a result of a co-design with around 35 sport, physical activity and mental health organisations. We currently have 8 regional networks across England who have so far done a fantastic job in supporting their region before and throughout the pandemic. The programme really looks at bringing together sport, physical activity and mental health organisations to increase the number of groups in their region who are equipped with the skills to support people with mental health problems to be active. So through the last 12 months of the programme, the networks have really opened doors to some fantastic programmes, learning and best practice around mental health and sport and physical activity that we didn't have knowledge of previously. And I think it's really fantastic to see and hear about all the great work happening both regionally and locally. So just kind of go through some of the highlights of the network over the last 12 months. We've had 708 organisations who have engaged with the networks, with relationships built between the sport and physical activity sector and local mines, NHS trusts, and even the Department of Work and Pensions and the HM Prison Service. The networks have upskilled 972 individuals through Mind's mental health awareness e-learning course, and they've run themed webinars on important topics such as children and young people, green spaces and men's mental health. We've also had lived experience Q&A sessions highlighting personal experiences of using the power of physical activity to support those experiencing mental health problems. So if you haven't already signed up to the network, the details will be on the next slide, but it'll be really great to see you all maybe at the next meeting. I really could go on all day because I'm really proud of the success achieved so far through the Mind Regional Network programme. But I thought it'd be best to kind of focus on the network closest to all of us on the webinar today. So I'd like to introduce you to Sarah, who is the lead of the East Midlands network.
Thank you and good morning everybody, and thank you for the invite to come and do a few minutes, just sort of update. Like Carla says, there's a lot of success in all of the regional networks, and it'd be just nice to kind of tell you where we're at with the East Midlands. So some of you may already be signed up to the network, of which we are hosting through Activity Alliance. So I'm the lead contact for the network in the East Mids and working on behalf of Activity Alliance. And we started sort of mid to the end of January this year. So we got activity started before the March restrictions. And so far to date, we've got about 110 organisations and partners that are signed up to the network as of today. And if you're not already signed up and you would like to be, then you're very welcome to be added to that, and we would welcome your involvement in that. So we have within those organisations, we've got a range of partners and colleagues, mixture of governing bodies of sport. We have disability sport organisations, physical activity providers. Carla just touched on DWP, so the Department of Work and Pensions. We've done some work with them, which has proved really, really positive and enabled us to sort of gain access to people that we've never worked with before in the physical activity field. We've got local mines, charities and voluntary sector. And we have a number of the NHS partners, hospitals, and we're also really fortunate in some of the areas in the East Mids to have some of the clinical mental health colleagues, which we've learned a lot from over the past few months, and it's really valuable to have that kind of diversity within a network. What we have done in the early stages, we were not able, unfortunately, to host some of the face-to-face meetings, which everybody has obviously experienced. So we moved quite quickly on to producing some newsletters to use as the main sort of resource tool. So May, June and July saw a series of newsletters that we were able to then share some of the core resources, which Sam and Carla have alluded to, looking at the support tools that were available to people in terms of mental health, and including the e-learning training, which has had a good take-up, in particular during the period of being offered for free during May and August. We saw some great take-up, and Leicestershire and Rutland were one of the highest in the East Midlands region for that take-up, which was really positive and valued. We also looked to keep people up to date with, national campaigns, local campaigns, to keep active during that time. And also then we found quite quickly that people were really keen to share good practice and things that had worked well and some good news stories. So we had some great examples from different partners, different organisations, and some very brave people in sharing their personal journeys in certain situations, which also, I know Carla has worked with some of those to sort of share them more nationally as well through Mind, which has been great. We also, as mentioned, in the absence of a series of face-to-face events, which we had planned starting from April onwards, we took a different tact, and we did some consultation in the summer with people in the network to look at what other virtual ways that we could, sort of engage and keep activity moving and keep the network, being positive and being supportive. So from that, there was it's fine, Sam, I've only got the one slide. I'm just talking away. The outcome was that people obviously wanted to do webinars, which is obviously similar to the conference that Kate and the team have put on today for their specific county. But we had the feedback from the network to say that people did want to, sort of share different topics. The themes that we had, there's 3 or 4 themes, of which we hosted the first one in the end of September for workforce confidence to support children and young people and well-being. And we had a series of guest speakers from clinical nurse specialist in the CAMS team from Nottinghamshire, so the Children and Adolescents Mental Health Services, a senior youth worker from a project, and also volunteer archery coach that also had a background in mental health. And you know, that webinar was really valuable in learning and helping to maybe guide some of us that don't have the experience and hands-on, and some really, really valuable tips. So that was the first one. And then we've also got some further webinars planned for December onwards. And the next one we have themed is going to be looking at connecting organisations that have common goals, future sustainable partnerships, and post-project methods of working, obviously looking at the sustainability after the regional network project ends. And then we have two further themes that we're looking to work with, sharing good practice and successful models of delivery, also including the challenges and how to overcome them. Because one of the things that we're keen to share amongst the networks is how people have experienced such challenges, and obviously this year being the most challenging that we've had, and you know how people have adapted and how people have overcome and looked to support people with mental health challenges. And then also valuing the lived experience role, which I know Sam and Carla have both alluded to, and the value of having people with lived experience and their personal journeys, and sometimes the level that they're prepared to share to, you know, help support others in physical activity and the benefits that creates. So that's just a little bit of an update. Hopefully that's useful. And as I said before, if anybody wants to still sign up to the network, please, you know, look at the contact details and the links that are on the screen, and you're very welcome to contact us to join us. Thank you.
Brilliant. Thanks, Sarah. Appreciate that overview, and thank you, Cara, as well, for giving an overview of the regional network programme. We really would encourage you to get involved with the East Midlands network. Sarah's been doing a great job of bringing together lots of key organisations around that, and I think we're really starting to see the benefits of that collaborative working in the region. So as highlighted earlier, we do work with some strategic partners, one of which is UK Coaching. And over the last several years or so, we've been working with them on the following. So as mentioned a couple of times today, we've obviously got our mental health awareness e-learning. We also worked with them to develop CARE, which is a set of infographics and animations on how to promote good mental health through coaching. So if you're a coach or a teacher or anything like that, CARE can be a great way for you to sort of embed mental health within your delivery. We've also provided support and guidance for coaches around mental health, including creating resources and delivering webinars such as UK Coaching's Time to Learn sessions. And then more recently, we've been collaborating on Duty to Care, and we've now got Sophie Hartley, who is the Coach Development Manager at UK Coaching, who's recorded a few slides and videos to run through this in more detail. Now, I really hope that this works IT-wise. If it doesn't, please do message or turn your microphone off just to let me know. But I'll now hand over to Sophie to run through Duty to Care.
Hi, I'm Sophie Hartley, the Coach Development Manager for the Midlands region, and I want to talk to you about our Duty to Care toolkit today. So I want you to think about what Duty to Care means to you. So some things it means to me is respect, understanding, support. So Duty to Care toolkit, as I started from the report that Baroness Tammy Gray Thompson did. And this is a quote from the report. And I say, the report focused on, I say, the overall welfare of people, I say, involved in everyday and at every level of sport and physical activity. It did mainly focus on participants and athletes, particularly at the talent and high performance, but it did mention grassroots throughout the report. We kind of thought at UK Coaching, and what was missing from the report was actually the support that is needed for people behind the participants. So coaches, coach developers, parents, people who build the systems for coaches. So from the report, what we did is we want to make sure that the learnings from the report is transferred into a toolkit that is accessible for anybody in any setting. So I say what we did a sector consultation, which was over 100 partners attended a summit of ours. Then we went on to a consultation process, and there were people from national and governing bodies, grassroots clubs, active partners, volunteers, paid coaches, all along the pathway. And these are some of the key words that came out, as I say, from the consultation: care, safety, safe, welfare, inclusive, respect, well-being, responsibility, player-centred, quality, scary, proactive. So as I say, from the consultation, we have put together the toolkit, which anyone can access on ukcoaching.org. So the Duty to Care, I say, toolkit encompasses more than just safeguarding, which people automatically jump to when they assume duty to care. There's 5, I say, elements, which in welfare, they do kind of overlap these themes. So there's safeguarding, inclusion, mental health, diversity, and well-being. And our ambition is to support coaches to look after themselves, to enable them to look after their participants in their care. As I say, this can be accessed by anybody at any level. So all you need to do is go on ukcoaching.com, search Duty to Care, and then you'll find it pops up with the next slide. I say this will take you through the Duty to Care toolkit and what it's going to allow you to do from this learning. So you'll come to these 5 pillars, and when you click on Learn More, for example, we'll do safeguarding. It will bring you to the online knowledge check. And the whole point of this learning is it's not just a test, a pass or fail. It actually gives you learning as you go, and you can check that. So these are some example questions. I say they're multiple choice, and also you can do this multiple times. It's all free. I say it's worth doing multiple times because different questions come up, and say you can expand your learning. And you can go back in at any time. You can do half of it, go and pop off and make your tea, come back and finish it off and jump back. So these are kind of example questions that you will be able to click through and submit. Great about say this toolkit is if you pass, you'll get your pass mark, which is 100% to pass, and then it will give you some further learning as well, which is all free to access on ukcoaching.org. You'll also get a digital badge, which looks like in this top section. And you'll be able to put that in your coaching portfolio, share it online on your social media and with other people. So and that's all stored on ukcoaching.org on your account. As I off the toolkit, you'll also be directed to some further reading and learning. So we've got podcasts, we've got articles. So you don't have to, as I finish your learning, then you can go and delve in and find more. And the great thing, it's free to access. So I hope you have a rest of a great conference, and thanks, Sam. Back to you.
Brilliant. Well, I didn't get any comments saying that wasn't working, so fingers crossed everyone was able to see that. The amazement of IT seems to have worked there. And as Sophie said, Duty to Care is completely free. And we really would encourage people, deliverers, particularly coaches, to get involved and just to run through the 5 different pillars. We have supported UK Coaching on the mental health pillar, but we've also helped them to try and embed mental health through all of the 5 pillars. So that's some an information on Duty to Care. I'll now hand us back over to Carla, who will sort of run through a couple of examples of good practice.
Well, thanks, Sam. So yeah, I thought it was really ideal to kind of bring the webinar to a close, to share some really good examples of best practice where programmes have embedded physical activity into mental health, and vice versa. There will be some more case studies highlighted across the next few weeks, including the example from Rampton Hospital, which we'll discuss today, with the opportunity to ask any questions live to James on the 30th of November. So the first case study highlights how an active partnership, in this instance Think Active, have worked in collaboration with one of our local mines, Springfield Mines, to deliver physical activity to those experiencing mental health problems through the Get Set to Go programme. Just to note that these recordings are from our previous webinar with the Active Partnerships Convention, but I do feel that they're still really relevant for today's topics and conversation. So hopefully the recordings will work if we press play.
Hello, thank you, Carla. As Carla said, I'm Hayley and I work at both Think Active and Springfield Mind. Sam, if you wouldn't mind changing the slide, please. So I work part-time at both organisations. So at Springfield Mind, I take the role as Get Set to Go coordinator, which Sam touched on briefly, but it's all about encouraging adults with low mental health to become physically active because of the health benefits associated. And then at Think Active, I'm one of the interim partnership managers working on the Workforce and Workforce Innovation Project, which is largely all around social prescribing and working with clubs to make them the right environment for when patients are signposted their way. Don't mind moving on, Sam. So I've been doing the dual roles for about a year now, and I think there has been quite a few successes which I'll try and touch on now. I guess the main one for both organisations is that they have started working a lot closer together and support one another. So for instance, Springfield Mind has been upskilling me on the mental health side and working with individuals with mental health problems, which I've been able to then take back to Think Active and share with the team there. And similarly, Think Active have been changing the perceptions around physical activity at Springfield Mind. So a lot of the staff there who are in mentoring and supporting capacity are trying to talk to their service users a little bit more about physical activity and encouraging them to take part, which is always a great thing. With the Get Set to Go project, Springfield Mind, when applying, were a bit reluctant, just because they had never worked in a physical activity project before, so they didn't really know how it was going to go. So Think Active had to play a big role and supporting Springfield Mind through this process, and they had to reassure them that they would support on the physical activity side where needed. They also helped when it came to writing the application and the recruitment of the coordinator role, which is where I uniquely fitted in, I think, which was good. One of the key things is that we wanted the project at Springfield Mind and Think Active to complement one another, just to avoid any duplication, and more importantly, so that it wasn't confusing for partners and groups that were involved. And in reality, it worked out quite nicely that both projects did complement one another. For the social prescribing work I was doing at Think Active, it was all around working with clubs to ensure they were a welcoming and supportive environment, with one particular strand around that, working with clubs to become more mental health friendly. So doing some mental health training and encouraging them to do an action plan of some actions that they wanted to do in order to become more mental health friendly. It was with the project Get Set to Go, I was able to use clubs from the Get Set to Go if they were interested to be a part of the social prescribing project, and similarly any clubs who were a part of the social prescribing project and had a particular interest around mental health I was able to try and get them involved in the Get Set to Go. So the both projects did actually work hand in hand, which I think is to my favour. Part of the Get Set to Go programme has been trained to deliver their mental health awareness for sport and physical activity, which actually allowed me to include this offer in the Think Active mental health commitment, which added another strand onto that commitment and provided the clubs with a little bit of training on how they could support individuals at their club who have mental health problems. Moving forward, we have agreed that any clubs who complete the Think Active mental health commitment, these will be shared with Springfield Mind, so that the staff there know where they can signpost individuals, and they may have a little bit more confidence to do so because they know the clubs have undertaken mental health training and are particularly interested in providing that welcoming and supportive environment someone with a mental health problem may need. Think Active also sat on the Get Set to Go steering group, so they were a vital partner in that on the physical activity side. Working together has actually led to some other projects being discussed between the two organisations, with one being around children and young people and potentially using satellite clubs' money to help fund some projects. So using a Get Set to Go format and adapting it slightly so that it's a little bit more suitable for children and young people. It's very in the early stages, but we're hoping to get that up and running over the next couple of years. One fun thing that came out of it that I guess we never really anticipated was Red January. So the two organisations, the Springfield Mind and Think Active, we had a friendly competition just to see which team on average could complete the most amount of minutes. This was done on social media, but it was great to do. So I had to be on the fence working for both organisations, but it also meant I was on the winning team, which was great. And it really just brought the two organisations together. For people who claim they aren't competitive, it did get very competitive, and both wanted me to act as a spy to find out how each organisation was doing. But it was all had in great spirit, and I think both teams enjoyed it. Would you like to move on, Sam? I guess some of the challenges have definitely been time. Doing both projects part-time was tricky at times, especially when it came to managing the two projects, because they were done on a part-time basis. Depending which days I was working for which organisation, it could be that I was out of the office 4 or 5 days, so I then had to come back and try and pick up where I left off. So time and managing the multiple projects were the two main challenges, but also avoiding confusion with the local opportunities. And this was because the two projects complement each other so well that it often meant I could wear two hats when I was meeting with clubs and groups and providers. So sometimes it was hard for clubs to differentiate between the two projects. So I was always had to be quite clear which hat I was wearing. But as time went on and they become aware of the two projects, it just made it a little bit easier. I guess some of the best practices that have come out of this, and I would suggest to anyone, was the opportunity I was given for flexible working. So this meant I didn't have fixed days in either office. Both organisations were happy for me to fit meetings in and around when clubs needed, which made the whole running two projects a lot easier because I was able to fit in and around the clubs. I guess in order for this to work, communication played an essential role. I tried my best to keep both managers up to date with where I was, what meetings I was going to, and if it was a Springfield Mind day or a Think Active day. I guess one of the arduous tasks of this was completing and updating 2 diaries, having 2 emails. I tried to merge them, but it wasn't possible. So I guess the only onerous task in that was keeping 2 diaries up to date. Another essential bit that played a big part was working in both offices, because it allowed me to pick the brains of people that Think Active on the physical activity side, and then have conversations around mental health and working with individuals with mental health and the support they may need from the guys at Springfield Mind, who were doing it on a daily and weekly basis. So that was it in a nutshell. I feel like I could talk for this on days and days, but
yeah, so I think that's a really, really good example of a sport and physical activity organisation working alongside a local mind, and just kind of highlighting the importance of collaborating when thinking about setting up a project for people experiencing mental health problems. So the next case study is very much on the other side of the coin. So this highlights a partnership between the FA connecting with secondary care mental health services at Rampton Hospital to provide both physical activity and coaching qualifications to their patients. So if you can play the video, please.
Hi, thanks, Carla. Thanks, everybody. Thank you for inviting me to this webinar. I hope you can all hear me well. I'm struggling to hear responses. It's very disjointed, so I'll just keep talking and give me a message, Carla, if it's any problems. So yeah, a really great opportunity to share our successful collaborative project, and also thank Mind wholeheartedly for the Get Set Go programme and making it happen really at Rampton Hospital. I think really as a project led this, but two of my team that have been really influential in making it happen were Greg Jones and Ian Wilkes, who would have been presenting it with me in the original presentation format. Fortunately, they have been redeployed onto the wards at the hospital to work with this COVID crisis. They're doing a fantastic job, so I'll try and do them justice with this, sharing their best practice. If you just move over to the next slide, please, Sam. Can we have the next slide, please? Thank you. So I'll tell you just a little bit about Rampton Hospital, really. It's a bit of a unique environment, so I think really it'd be good if I can showcase the best practice here and show that we can work in such a unique environment as a high secure hospital, that these projects can be successful anywhere, really. There's some of the patients and my staff delivering the training there. If I could just check next slide. Okay, so people that don't know what Rampton Hospital is, they're one of 3 high secure hospitals in England, with Broadmoor in the south of the country and Ashworth, which is based in Liverpool. And there is one other high secure hospital in Scotland, which is a different running in terms of the Mental Health Act there. We have a total of 322 patients across the hospital, and the hospital split into different care streams, which we have a national learning disability service, which includes a death service, and we have a mental health directorate, a personality disorder unit, and also the national women's health unit as well. Now, there's a lot of history at Rampton. We opened over 100 years ago, in 1912, with 300 patients, and that went up to 1,300. And obviously that was in the old asylum days. If you could, next slide, please, Sam. That's just an area view of our hospital and how big it is, really. Next slide again. Okay, it's just a bit of an overview of some of the fantastic facilities we have at the hospital. And as the health and fitness manager, I'm very proud of these facilities. I've always had a vision, really, for my department to be really a key provider for physical activity in the NHS. I think with the facilities we've got, we are at a very position to make that happen. We've started to do a lot of research, working with Loughborough University and other collaborations to try and further the evidence base around the importance of physical activity and mental health, which we all know is so important and vital. So we have a swimming pool, a Westfields area where the patients can access fresh air, and a sports hall and fitness suite. The sports hall where we delivered the project, which I'm going to be talking about today. Okay, Sam, thank you. Okay, so the actual project, which was a collaboration with Nottinghamshire FA and Mind with the Get Set Go programme, kind of came about an existing relationship with Nottinghamshire Mind and the chief executive there, Nicola Roberts. She approached us with some funding, and historically when we'd had funding, we'd often got Nottinghamshire, Notts County to come in and coach the patients, which the patients loved, and you really enjoyed playing football, but it was very time limited. So if we had some money allocated, the patients would probably get 6 sessions, which they enjoyed engaging in. As soon as the funding was finished, the activity would stop. So for myself and my team, it was the sustainability wasn't there, and the succession planning. We wanted to look at how could we encourage the patients to continue engaging in the activity when the coaches left. So that's where we had the idea of actually, through the Get Set Go program, funding, using that funding to get the patients to have a qualification and have a level 1 football coaching qualification. So we just thought there'd be a really fantastic opportunity for them to use their skills to coach their peers, and as part of their recovery as well, just have this qualification, which we're very proud of getting. Also get the opportunity for 2 of my team to work alongside the patients in gaining that qualification, and really peer learning. They were teaching the patients and learning at the same stage, so it was really, really good. I think the other bits around the project, obviously there was a lot of challenges. There's operational challenges in trying to get sessions such as this to happen in a high secure hospital, and challenges for the coaches from FA to come in and realise that they couldn't bring their laptops in, and memory sticks. We had to really rely on good planning and communication, how we're going to get the equipment in. We had to do working with the partners to deliver this bespoke course. So what the patients actually gained was a full certificate, minus some of the e-learning elements, because we have some problems with actually having certain access to internet at the hospital. So the patients just missed out on the child safeguarding aspects, but they did everything else in terms of their own bespoke course. I think what we have done with Ian and Greg, so make sure they get the credit for this hard work, is they've written an article and it's been shared with the FA about the benefits of this, which perhaps we can send a link at the end of this webinar. I think what was really, really great was that the patients felt so pleased to have had support from the Get Set Go program. They wanted to give something back to Mind, so they had approached me and asked if they could do a fundraising event for to raise money for Mind, and this was two-pronged approach. We had activities and physical activities taking place within the hospital at the same time as a member of staff was organising events out in the local community, and the patients actually raised just under £2,500, which they were able to invite the chief executive of our local Mind to the hospital when they had coincided with the patients getting their level 1 graduation certificates, and we had a big event to celebrate that. Really, I think we've got some pictures there, Sam, if you want to just click through. We'll come on to those pictures later. There we go. That was the patients actually handing over the cheque to Nikki there in the middle. Very proud they were. If we just go back again, Sam, so we can have a look at some of the patient feedback from the course. I'll let you read that. There's some really good quality feedback there about how they were inspired, and how it's really given them some meaning to helping their family and friends. I think really nice feedback at the end around making them readdress their lives and what they want to do when they move on from the high secure services. Really was fantastic that all 8 of the patients that actually partake in the course passed as well, and they were 100% attendance, which, as we know, motivation, engagement can be hard for some of our patients and for anybody with mental health issues. Could we go back to the next slide, please, Sam? And the next one. So there's a patient who we can't reveal his identity, but there's the pictures of the coaches that delivered the training there. He's very, very proud. He's actually, that patient there has written a speech which we have recorded onto the, or it's going to play it at the physical presentation, but I think we're going to put that on the webinar link afterwards so you can hear somebody reading his acceptance speech out. He talks very much about how much meaning it's given to him, how much how motivated it's made him, and really how appreciative he is for the Get Set Go program. And so I just really want to mirror that we've been so grateful to have this opportunity. And the next steps for us are that we're continuing to develop this partnership, and we're going to be offering a refereeing course as well. So that's what the patients should have been started in March, which we had to put on hold we're hopeful to get that up as soon as we get back to normal. So. Hi, thanks.
Well, thanks, Sam. Yeah, so if you have any questions around either of the case studies, please do place them in the chat box. I will do my very best to answer, but if I'm unable to, I can feed back to you after this webinar once I've spoken to Hayley or James. But yeah, I'll hand back over to Sam.
Brilliant, thanks, Carla. And yeah, it was really good to see those sort of two good practice examples bring the work around physical activity and mental health to life. And we know this might not be relevant to your roles and things like that, but these are really good inspirational examples which hopefully you can take a little bit of good practice from. But there are many examples of good practice, and as Carla mentioned, and I'm sure Kate will mention, that there'll be more sessions on good practice within Leicestershire and Rutland over the course of the month, so there'll be some really good local examples there. So that is enough of us talking at you for over an hour now. Hopefully you found that really useful, but if you do have any questions, please do drop them in the chat box, or feel free to take yourself off mute and ask them, as there's not a huge amount of us, so we can discuss them in maybe more detail. Or if you've got questions after the webinar, then please do email us via our email, which is sport@mind.org.uk. So I'll just leave it for a second to see if anyone's got any questions. Yeah. Oh, sorry, go on. Yeah, of course.
Just on the example of Rampton, and apologies if I missed this part, how did you identify who would take part in the training, in the FA training, as part of the project?
I'm not exactly sure, but I'm pretty certain that James and his team would have selected the people in the hospital that they felt it was most relevant for, or had expressed an interest in doing something around physical activity. What we've found in hospitals is that it's best to actually ask patients what they want to get out of sort of their time in hospital, instead of trying to enforce things like a course or physical activity on them.
Okay, thanks, Sam.
But we can always contact James. He's actually delivering at the end of the month, running through that example in more detail. So.
Great.
Any other questions at all? And yeah, just looking in the chat box, yeah, definitely, it is a great example, the Rampton Hospital, and hopefully we can do more of that work across the different hospitals in England, Wales, Scotland and Northern Ireland. I think sometimes it's a case of getting the first pilot out of the way and showcasing how it does work, and then more hospitals and mental health services are likely to get on board. Okay, well, seems like we haven't got any more questions, but if you do have questions, please do email us at sport@mind. But yeah, I suppose we'll conclude there. But just before I hand back over to Kate, I just wanted to say that this is a hugely challenging time for absolutely everyone. And we all do have mental health, and we all need to take care of it just as we do our physical health. And sometimes there is a tendency to put others' well-being before ours, because it's seen as selfish to look after ourselves. But self-care isn't selfish. We use the analogy, and some people may not like it, but I think it does give good context to it, that when you're on a plane and if there's trouble, they say put on your own oxygen mask before helping others. And that is very similar to our own mental health and well-being. If we have mental health problems or poor mental well-being, it's hugely difficult for us actually to support others. And that's why this quote we've provided is so prominent, particularly at the moment, that self-care really does mean giving the world the best of you instead of what is left of you. So thank you again for joining this webinar. We hope you found it useful. Please do enjoy the rest of Leicestershire and Rampton Sports Conference. I'll now hand back over to Kate just for some closing words.
Thank you, Sam. Firstly, yes, I'd just like to say some thank yous to yourself, Sam, and to Carla. I think what you've done there is given an absolutely great insight into all the work that you're undertaking. And it was really interesting to see the journey through the last few years of how that's actually progressed. And certainly with the work that you've forged, those excellent partnerships with those different national organisations. And I think we've all seen that there's just a wealth of resources and guidance on the website. And I would urge all of you to, if you've not already done so, to have a really good look at the website. There's some really great information on there and some really great examples of work that's been taking place. Also, thank you, Sarah, for your update on the regional network, and please contact Sarah or myself if you would like more information on that. And following on from that, the session on the 30th of November is really centred around developing, building our own local network for Leicestershire, Leicester and Rutland. So please join us if you can for that session, or contact me if you would like more information on what we're trying to achieve from that. Just like to make reference to the workforce development. The e-learning workshop mentioned by both Sam and Sarah has proved to be an excellent resource. And I was really pleased to see the number of people that had actually accessed that within Leicestershire. I think it was 884, something like that. So that's really incredible. And again, if you've not already accessed that opportunity, I would really urge you to do so. It's a really valuable resource to have. And also making reference to Sophie's comments from UK Coaching about the duty to care and the 5 pillars of support. Working with Sophie on to be incorporated into the LRS Workforce Education Programme that's going to be relaunched either later this year or early next year. Keeps getting put back slightly due to the obvious issue that we're in at the moment, but hopefully, certainly by the new year, we'll have more details about that offer for everyone. I thought the 2 case studies were really interesting, and I have heard them a couple of times now, but I'm never failed to be inspired by them. 2 very different areas of work and show some excellent good practice. And as I mentioned, these will be available to view throughout the month, along with a couple of local case studies that we will also have featured in the session on the 30th of November. So yes, thank you all very much for attending today. Thank you again to our speakers and presenters, and just like to echo what you said, Sam, just now about, it's really important to look after our own well-being. Certainly at the moment, we're all very, very busy with our roles. But yes, just remember to take care of yourself as well. So yes, a final big thank you from ourselves here at LRS. If I could just ask you to stop recording now, Sam.